All right, so lecture 27 is on the eye. We're not going to do a lot of derivation or mathematics in here. We're just going to cross a couple of basic ideas. And this will kind of be our final lesson on, applications of optics or whatever, right? And then we'll have another lecture where we talk a little bit more about the theory before getting ready to move on to the next set of lectures on Newton's laws next week. So light enters the eye through a variable aperture called the pupil. The variable aperture, it has an iris which can control the amount of light that is let into the eye. If you've ever seen an iris, they're kind of unique. They close uniformly into a circle, right? And that's what you have here for the pupil. It's focused by the cornea lens system onto the retina, which is the back surface of the eye. Okay, there light is detected by rods and cone cells, which convert the light into electrical energy, or electrical signals rather, that are transmitted along the optic nerve to the brain. Okay, so one thing to note, the image on the retina is upside down, so we're actually perceiving everything upside down, but our brain, knows how to correct for this, and so we perceive everything as right side out. Okay, so that's taken care of computationally. Here we have a real picture of an eye. Right, so you can see the cornea. It's this surface up here. Okay, and there will be a question on your homework assignment related to this, where I give you the index of refraction of the cornea, and I ask you the question, why is it you can't see clearly underwater without goggles? Okay, and so you'll get to think about that a little bit. The lens is this system, this structure you see right here. You can kind of see where the iris is, then the pupil here in the center, right? And then the retina is all of this surface back here, right? And there you can see the optic nerve. And I think some of you have tried this experiment where you close one eye, focus on a point, and then move your hand around until your finger disappears partially. There it goes. My finger disappeared. Weird. That's a blind spot you have because of the optic nerve, right, which is a point on the actual retina. Okay, so when you have an object that is imaged at this portion of the retina, you won't actually be able to see it because there are no rods and cones there. That's where the optic nerve is. Let's see. What else did I want to mention? So focusing is accomplished by the activity or the action of the ciliary muscles. You can see them kind of in this diagram here. They look like a fibrous bundle attached to the edges of this lens. And if they tense up, they will pull and flatten that lens out. Okay. Yes, I think that's right. So the relaxed state of the eye is when you're focusing on an object in the distance. So if I have an object, here is my eye. Yes, I think it's exactly the opposite of what I just said. If this is far away versus, say, close up, right? So this is relaxed. No need to engage any muscles. This is tense. So when objects are closer, it's in a tense state. The focal length of the eye, kind of f max, is about 2.5 centimeters. The focal length under tension is less than f max. That's why we call it f max. And I'll put a problem in the homework set that allows you to calculate what that focal length will be. Now, if you get closer than a certain point, we call it the near point, right? Then you will no longer be able to focus on that object, okay?
All right.
That's because there's a limit to how much we can contract our muscles, okay? And so this is called the near point. It's variable. It depends on the age of the person. So for a 10-year-old like yourself, probably somewhere around 7 centimeters. For a really old person, grandpa or something, 65 or so, maybe 200 centimeters. The not necessarily the average, but the value that we usually use for the near point is 25 centimeters. Okay?
Okay.
And that's the 25 centimeters you guys saw in the microscope equation for the magnification of a microscope the other day. There was a 25 centimeters in there, right?
Yes.
Divided by the eyepiece focal length. That was that 25 centimeters was from the near point distance. Okay. Let's just see here. So the reason that this near point distance increases over time is because of a loss of flexibility of the lens. Okay.
Okay.
So just like when you get older, you can do that little skin test where you pinch your skin and see how fast it falls away. And if you get older, it'll get slower and slower. So there's a kind of a loss of resiliency in your cells as you age. And so I think that is the reason for the loss of flexibility of the lens is coming from something like that. You have a question?
When you pinch your skin, if it goes down slowly, I heard from a doctor that means you're dehydrated.
Well, that could be the case, but let's assume that you have normal hydration levels. As you age, that response time of your skin will go down. And I don't think it's because old people are dehydrated, but yeah. Yeah, so if you decrease the focal length, right, what does that mean about the curvature of the lens, right? So if the focal length is decreased, right, let's think about a long focal length lens. What would that look like? It would look almost flat, right? So we can imagine that we've got very little curvature there, right? Whereas, you might have the focal length way out here, right? Whereas a very rounded focal length lens would have a very short focus, right? And so, how do you think about that? Well, you think about the circles again, right? So if I draw, say, a tight circle like this, radius, that's where the focal point is, right? If I draw a very, and remember, we're only going to use that portion of it, which is, we're only going to use this portion of it for the mirror, but if I have a very large circle, right, then the focal point halfway between there, right, you can see that the focus has gone out. And so that same segment, right, through here, right, will be relatively flat compared to here. And so we say that the curvature is increased as the focal length goes down. And so that's why it is that when you tense up your eyes, it's kind of increasing the curvature of this lens or making it more rounded, right? And that's decreasing the focal length. So it's actually the opposite of what I had always thought, but that's okay. All right, finally let's talk about vision corrections, okay? I'm just going to erase this little bit here. There are two general terms you need to know. Farsighted. And so we always measure this with respect to the relaxed eye. I'm going to draw a very simple eye with just a lens. There we go. And we're going to have parallel rays coming in. Parallel rays, of course, are going to converge on the focus, right? And they'll cross at the focus. And if this focus, if parallel rays focus behind the retina, right, then this is called farsighted, okay?
All right.
So what you can do, the corrective action that you take for this is to introduce a positive lens or a convex lens. So let's put the correction. Put plus lens for positive lens. And so you introduce a positive lens which will start this guy to converge a little bit earlier. It kind of helps the lens in your eye out. I've exaggerated the degree to which it does that, and that will allow these guys to now move the focal point for parallel rays. Parallel rays are things that are infinitely far away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To on the retina where it should be. Okay? Parallel rays should focus on the retina. Okay? And so by introducing this positive lens, it will decrease the focal length, right? By adding to the curvature, right? Decrease the focal length to the point that it focuses onto the retina. And so that's what those do. Okay? And those kind of glasses, they tend to be like this. So they're kind of magnifying glasses, right? So if you look at get up to the camera a little bit. look at my eyes, they should appear to be a little bit bigger as I pull these out. You can see that, I think you can. But these, yes, these are spherical biconvex lenses, okay? And they're basically magnifying. I think I might be able to image the backlight. Yeah, see, there you go. It focuses to a point like this, okay? Now, the next case would be what is called nearsighted. Nearsighted. And that is where parallel rays focused before the retina. Okay? They focus before the retina. And so the correction for that, negative lens or divergent lenses. So if I introduce a divergent lens, try to draw it, I'm going to exaggerate the curvature on this, but that's not very good either. Let me try one more time. I like that better. That's a little better. Introduce a diverging lens before the eye lens, and what we'll get is the correction that we need, except we should draw it correctly. There we go. Focus onto the retina. There we go. These parallel rays kind of makes them bend apart a little bit like this, right? So that the lens will now focus parallel rays onto the retina. So we kind of decrease the curvature, right? Increase the divergence of the rays. And so that will correct for that. And that's what nearsighted, that's what these would be for, right? And so these are actually, you can't really tell by looking at them necessarily, but they are concave, biconcave lenses. Actually, these are progressive lenses, so I'm not exactly sure how they do that, but it allows you to correct for both so that I can read things that are close up and see things that are far away at the same time. All right, so that is the eye. I thought it would be nice just to put a little bit in because we all have eyes, and now you know how they work, basically. Okay, and we tied it back in with the optics that we looked at, right? So, any questions?
Nope. What is that plus next to the lens?
Positive lens, right? So that's with positive curvature, right? Positive focal length. So the biconvex lenses we call positive lenses. They have positive focal lengths, positive curvatures. The divergent lenses, also these are convergent, meaning they focus together. The negative lenses are divergent, right? They have negative focuses and negative curvatures, and they diverge light, right?
Yep.
So if I have, we haven't talked a lot about these, but if I have a divergent mirror, what happens, right? Parallel rays will get sent out like that, you see?
Yes.
Yeah. So. Okay, and that's all for that.